Where do I start? They say life imitates art. I'm trying to paint a picture. Paint a picture that's licking you scripture. I ain't just another nigga. Another nigga with a dream. It seems we finally made him all believe. A dream to be the reason we come to achieve. The life that we would all kill for, even die for. High score, so sick, so sick. Sick and tired of these little kids talking grown shit.
We're gonna hang with, her name is Cazhhmere. And she has some cool stories to tell. I could introduce you, but I feel like I wouldn't do as good a justice. What?
Should we start? I'm just saying, do we start with like the kickoff of the event with our acknowledgement that we brought Joseph to do? Or did you want to? Yeah.
Yes.
I want to kick this off right.
Let's do that. Joseph, this is Joseph, everyone. Joseph has...
Hi, Joseph.
Hello.
Joseph here, take my mic.
There's a little bit of not rooms here, but...
We're going to make it work.
I'm going to stand up. Yeah. There we go. No. Oh, Lee. There we go. So as Terrence already said, hello, welcome, Common Good Solutions. I work here as well. But before we get to that, let's think back a little bit and bigger a little bit. We have the opportunity to gather here today because we're standing on the traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This beautiful land is called Mi'kma'ki. And that's the term used for the land of the Mi'kmaq. There is one other, you know what, I'm just going to go into a little bit of explanation about those terms a little bit. Unceded is a term that gets tossed around a lot in land acknowledgements now because they're happening all over the place. And this word gets pulled out in places where there are no post-Confederation treaties. So Nova Scotia is one of these places. We've only got a chain of peace and friendship treaties here in Nova Scotia that date from 1725 to 1779. And none of those treaties set out to transfer any land or transfer any power. It was mostly just an acknowledgement and an understanding to coexist as separate nations on the same land. One other acknowledgement that I'd like to make about Indigenous. There is only one Indigenous First Nations Indigenous group in Nova Scotia, and that's the Mi'kmaq. But this is also the home to Canada's oldest black settlements. So people that have lineage through the black refugees and the black loyalists they've got claim to indigeneity just as much because they've been here as long as. Or at least longer than any sort of confederation has happened. So there hasn't been much research done yet into what kind of relationships the Mi'kmaq and the black people of the 1700s were doing. But I believe that there are people that are doing that research right now, and it's really exciting that we all get to move forward towards reconciliation together and as a nation of beautiful and diverse Canadians. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to this panel of beautiful and diverse Canadians, and we'll have a really great night. So enjoy the show, and thank you again.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph. That's how we're supposed to start the show. Yeah. Yep. And now we can actually start the show. Welcome to the Changing Narrative Podcast, episode 34. I'm sitting next to one of my favorite. Don't say nothing yet.
I didn't. Just like, my mouth doesn't mean I was going to say something.
You was thinking about it.
I was.
I'm sitting next to one of my favorite humans who I think has one of the most luscious voices ever. I love her. She's my coworker. She goes by the name.
Lauren Sears.
She hear that?
It's a very luscious voice.
I know, right? So good. I love it. And Lauren is sitting next to the creative art. Hey, look, I got the hat on. If you don't got one of these hats, you sleep.
Actually, I might be giving one away today.
What?
So nice we'll see.
Swag.
Yeah, I'm Dwayne. Some people call me an art pays me.
Yeah.
Nice
and
one.
We have another wonderful human being on the stage. Her name is Cazhhmere. She's a video producer. She is a creative person. Mm-hmm. You're from North Preston / Toronto?
No. I'm born in Halifax.
Oh.
Yeah. I was born right at the hospital right up the street there.
So you're this is your home.
This is my home, yeah.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
We're gonna talk about your life as a creative person, how you got from here to producing videos for who are some of these famous folks?
Just like Classified and Cardinal Official, and the list continues.
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Jordan from here.
Close to my heart.
Yes.
And you're from here.
Yeah, indeed.
So it can be done.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna share our stories. Do you maybe want to give the people and the listeners a bit of your brief story, and then we're gonna dig
for sure.
all the way in.
First, one question.
Yes.
Are kids watching this?
That was my question.
I should watch my language? Because, I can. It's difficult, but I can. So it's not my first time, you know what I mean? So, but I just want to know right off the bat.
We have an explicit lyrics, the box, the little
So you have the little box next to the disclaimer?
Parental advisory, yes.
Okay, so then that's up to their parents then.
So do you.
All you can do is let them know.
Yes.
And once done, it's on their parents to see if they make those judgments, right?
I love it.
All right, cool.
I love it.
Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? You guys all right? Hands up. Kinda forever.
That's right.
My name is Cazhhmere. As I said, I was born and partially raised in Halifax throughout my life. I was born here, but me and my mother, we moved to Toronto in the early 90s when I was mid-elementary school age. So I finished the West Elementary, junior high, and high school in Toronto, and then I came back here to go to SMU. And then I moved back to Toronto after I graduated, and I've kind of been in Toronto ever since, but Hallie is still home, and I come home every year. Like I said, brief history about me. Like I said, after SMU, I did a TV and film program in Toronto. Because, yeah?
No.
What?
Don't tell them that yet.
Oh, okay. So what do you want me to tell them? You said give them a brief history and not me.
I know. But
is that enough then?
But then I realized.
So where do you want me to start?
But actually, Dwayne,
I think we good.
I'll do this. Here, listen.
Okay.
I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller.
Yes.
I tell stories for a living in many different formats.
Yes.
Predominantly did music videos for about 14 years. Currently, I still do music videos, but that's more of a passion, not an occupation for me. I make my money and my living directing and writing for narrative film, commercials, and documentaries now, directing and writing. As these guys said, I did a plethora of videos for a lot of different people, everyone from homegrown talent, because I said Hallie is always home, so Classified and I did a number of videos together. Chad Hatcher, a lot of different people from down here, more particularly and most known for doing Jordan Crocher, JRDN, however you know him by, because a lot of people down home will know him as very many different things. But he and I are blood relatives. We're cousins, so I've done every video that he's done in his career. And I did plenty of his Cardinal Official. Like I said, I've worked with a lot of artists, Carl Henry, Carl Wolf, Backstreet Boys, as they said. Done work with Snoop Dogg, people in the States, people overseas, and a lot of people in Canada.
Did you do a video for Chinks Drugs?
Yes, or rest in peace.
Rest in
But
peace.
I did,
Wow.
Big Lean and Chinks. Yeah, I did a video with them. Yeah, I did a video for Juicy J. Harvey Stripes and Juicy J.
That's right.
Just so cool.
That's
A
it.
bunch of different people.
That gets me excited.
Yeah.
I like that shit.
That ratchetness.
That was me too. I'm not gonna be honest with you. People are like, "Hey, took me over a Backstreet Boy," and I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's cool." But I'm like,
But Juice
I
Man.
kudos for that though, because they're like, I did a video with Chinks, so that's what gets me excited. You know what I'm saying? And doing a video with the Juice Man. You know what I'm saying? So
That's great.
that guy's an Oscar winner,
Yeah.
an Academy Award winning guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what I'm saying,
Don't hate on the Juice Man.
Right. Dope. Dwayne, do you want to take the lead here?
I'll take the
Go
lead.
for it.
So, what was a young Cazhhmere like? Were you always creative?
Yeah, for the the most part, I mean, I grew up as an only child until the age of 10.
Yeah.
Which are, very crucial years growing, as you become your own person.
Yeah.
And I was raised by a single mom. So I spent a lot of time entertaining myself, and I had a vivid imagination. So like I played make-believe a lot. My make-believe was really elaborate. You know what I mean? Like telling stories. Like I was make-believing full-on movies, from a very early age. But as a child, I was very shy, very quiet. I'm an Aquarius, so
shout out.
Kind of just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Low key chill.
Yeah.
I was very, very quiet and reserved as a kid, but my imagination is what kept me entertained,
Okay. So how was your mom feeling about you doing creative? Like, were you thinking about like a creative career that early, or no?
Not really. I was raised by an army brat.
Okay.
If you guys know what that is, an army brat is people that were raised on military bases because their parents were in the military. My grandfather was in the military here in Nova Scotia, and so my mom and her siblings, they were raised on the base here in Cornwallis, in Fredericton, in Germany, they traveled a lot. And so my mother is just my mom's kind of like, she's the oldest daughter, and she's kind of like the square one, you know what I mean? She's very much into like her books and education and all. Like my mom took trigonometry and stuff like that in school. I still don't even understand what trigonometry is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're for real. My mother told me, like, in high school, the lowest grade she ever got was a B-, ever. And it only happened once. Like, ever.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know. My highest grade might have been a B-. You know what I mean? Unless it was like gym or any of the artistic classes that I took in high school, Yeah. So my point is, like, because I was raised by an army brat, and that our particular army brat, it was all about school, even though that wasn't really me. Like I just said, like my grades were never the best, unless it was gym, because I was very athletic, and anything art-wise, that was what was always easy for me. And then I went to university because I was told to, Like I said, I played volleyball throughout elementary school and high school.
Yes.
Volleyball coach,
Yeah, I played, to be honest with you, I ended up playing volleyball by default because I played basketball, but in elementary and high school, basketball season is like 3 months. Right. And what am I supposed to do for the rest of the year?
Exactly.
And they were like, and I went to school, especially when my mom and I moved to Toronto, I went to school with like mostly rich white kids just because I took all French, and so in Toronto there's only particular schools where that's offered, and so by default I ended up going to school, even though we didn't live in those neighborhoods, I'm going to school with like neighborhoods where all the rich white kids live, and so which meant I was one of very few black people in the entire school, and so it was just a matter of, you're black, you play basketball, I bet you can play this too,
Never heard that one before.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And ironically, I could, I literally played every sport, throughout the season. It was just like, hey, you're good at that one too. Bet you can play this too. Spring would come, and it was like, then it's track season, and then summer comes, and it's softball season, and I'm just like, oh, you're black, I bet you're really fast. You know what I mean? Like, you could do this, and chances are I did. So, anyways, I ended up playing volleyball because I played basketball.
That's
I'm
real shit, yo.
No, it's real. I was super strong, and I could jump really high. And so I ended up playing center because I could kill that ball. You know what I mean? And I
knew we were connected.
Block it. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, anyways, I got offered to go play volleyball in the States, and my mom just wasn't having it because, again, she's all about education, and she's like, no, I'm not saying, especially in America of all places, like, she's like, American schools don't give a fuck about your education. She's like, as long as you play good, they'll make sure you
don't. And if you don't play well, you're injured. Bye.
And that's what she said. She said all that to me. She's like, as long as you play well, they'll make sure that you get the good grades even if you didn't go to class. And she's like, and if you get hurt or stop playing well, they're gonna just dump you. Then what? You know what I mean? She's like, I'm not paying for the American tuition, and so she's like, I'm sending you to school to learn, not to be treated like a product. And so because of that, she refused to allow me to go to school in the States. And she was like, you can go down home if you want, that's all, because I was determined to go away to school because, you know, you watch TV and movies and that becomes like the fantasy, right? To go away to college and live on campus and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So that was always like my goal. So she wasn't gonna let me go to school in the States to play sports. I was gonna go away somewhere. And she was like, nah, you're going down home. You know, she's like, you can go to Dow, you can go to SMU. That's it. Because I couldn't even go to like the schools outside of Halifax because I lived with my granddad. Like I didn't stay on campus. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyways, I did university. I did my undergrad because I was told to. And then when I moved back to Toronto, as I was telling you guys.
What did you take your undergrad in?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I St. Mary's.
Yeah, what do you...
Oh, and political science, and I did like a minor in sociology because it's what I was told to do. My mom works in politics, right? So it's just what I was told to do. The plan was like to go do my undergrad, political science, and then go to law school, and I go do the undergrad at SMU, and then go to Dow for law. And after I graduated, the summer that I finished my undergrad at SMU, like literally I didn't even stay to get the results from my final exams. The day I took my final exams, 3 hours later, I was on a plane back to Toronto. I said, I'm over this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anyways, when I got back, a friend of mine was attending the Toronto School of Art and Design. She was studying fashion at the time, and we were hanging out. I would always just see like her sketches and her like book and stuff, and I'm like, that's your homework, you know? I'm like, I want to do that kind of homework. I just spent 3 years reading thick ass textbooks, and I still don't know what I read. You know what I mean? Like I just remember what was in the book and to write it in my exams and all that stuff. But I still don't really know what political science is really about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was like, but that's freaking cool. And like I was telling you guys, like I've always been like imaginative and a storyteller, and my friends always knew like I was always really into music. And as I got older, my adolescent teenage years, I started to I never had a diary, but my diary was like I used to write music video treatments. Oh wow! Like that was my diary, you know, because it was just me getting ideas out of my head and putting them down. Like, and that's what diaries were. It's like telling your personal, deep inside stuff, the stuff that you can't share with the outside world, right? And for me, that's what was that for me. And I would listen to songs by like my favorite artists, and ideas would just come to my head, and I would just go to my little notebooks and I would write down and have pages of pages for anybody, like TLC, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey. Like I got treatments for every song they've ever done. You know what I mean? And so my friends always knew that I liked that, and I was like, they always kind of knew I had an interest in making music videos. So when she showed me her book, she was like, you know, they have a film and TV program at the school. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. So I told my mom, I was just like, Mom, so here's an idea. How about I not go back down home to go to Dow? Because I took the LSAT and everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was preparing to go to law school. I was like, how about we not do that? And I stay here and I go to school. She's like, so you want to go to UFT law program? I was like, nah, I want to go to the Toronto film school and study film and television. And she goes, I'm not paying for it. That was literally her first response. Like, she didn't even, oh yeah, that's very interesting. That's nice. Like, no, I'm not paying for it. Yeah. Up until then, she was paying for everything, right? Right. And she saying I'm not paying for it. She assumed that then I would just be like, oh, okay, never mind. And I was like, that's okay. I'll pay for it myself. I was like, I'll get a student loan. Like, I haven't been living with you, so now I can apply for a loan as an independent. Yeah. Before, she wouldn't even let me get a loan to go to an away school. You know what I mean? But I'm like, I can do it myself now. So that's what I did. You know what I mean? That was how I moved into that. I was never always intending to do that. I didn't know that I wanted to do that until my friend kind of showed me that it was possible to do that. You know what I mean? You can actually study that in school. It's like, oh, there you go.
God for those kinds of friends, eh?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's crazy how sometimes you just don't have that example in front of you. Yeah. You know, just to say, because that's kind of what we preach a little bit. Just you don't necessarily have to do that thing that you think you have to do. You don't have to follow that path that you're told all the time necessarily, right?
Or just that there's ways to take your interests and transition them into the outside, the adult world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Explain more.
For example, when I was in high school, like I said, I went to school where the rich white kids were, so the education level was a little different. You know what I mean? And the quality of the education was a little different, right? And so anyways, I had this guidance counselor, Mr. Reed, short, handsome white guy, looked like Tom Cruise. and he was a guidance counselor and an English teacher. And from grade 9 all throughout, and I went in Ontario up until about 10 years ago. They used to have a 5th year of high school called OAC, right? So from like grade 9 all the way through high school, this guy, he'd see me in the hallways. I'd always go listening to my music, and he'd always come to me, be like, "What are you listening to?" And I went to high school in the late 90s and graduated in 2000. So do the math and you figure out how old I am. But I'm like, I'm listening to the Lost Boys. Why? People like, "Oh, check out track number 12. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Keep walking. Next day, same thing. What are you listening to? "Oh, I'm listening to the new Fugees album." "Oh, yeah, cool. Check out track number 4. They just kept doing that. And then I'd actually eventually would go check out the tracks. I'm like, yo, that's my joint. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then one day I asked him, like, "Mr. Reed, like, you're always asking me, like, what am I listening to?" Or if I had, like, you know, this is when, like, Source and Vibe magazine were, like, the stuff. So I had that magazine. He'd be like, "Oh, did you read that article about such and such?" You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, how do you know all this stuff, dude? Yeah. And he told me, basically, he's like, I was born in New York. I didn't grow up rich. I grew up poor. He's like, I went to school with like a lot of these cats, you know? And I'm like, "Oh yeah?" And he's like, "Yeah." So he's like, "I know this, like, I'm listening to my friends." And then he's like, and my son said, "My son is the same age as you, and he listens to the same music that you do." And he's like, "So if I'm gonna ever have a relationship with him, he's like, I gotta be into the same things that he's into." And these guys just happen to be the kids I grew up with. And he's like, case in point, he's like, "You and I talk every day, don't we?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually we do," you know? Amazing. So anyways, he taught grade 12 English media. That's a class where they'll teach you about, like, you know, magazines and print news and, like, you know, all that type of stuff. And so because we had developed such a rapport, I couldn't wait till I got to grade 12 to take his class, right? So I finally took his class, and up until then I really had no interest in school, to be honest with you. Like I told you guys, my grades were never the greatest. But he's the first person to put a camera in my hand. And he's the first education figure that helped me realize what I just said to you, is that you can take your own personal interests and apply them and transition them into the adult world. Because his class was English media, our first assignment was, he was teaching us about print, so the newspaper. And our first assignment was to write our own newspaper article. And I was like, I don't really know what to write about. And he was just like, "Well, you listen to music, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Don't newspapers have music review sections?" And I was like, "Yeah, they do." Yeah. I see where you're going with this. He's like, "So what's the latest album you just listened to?" I was like, "I just bought Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill." He's like, "Oh, dope album." He's like, "Pick your favorite song on there and write a review about that song." I'm like, "Okay." So I chose Lauryn Hill's track, Lost Ones. It was like, hip hop started up in the heart, not everybody trying to chart. So I wrote this whole thing about how relevant that was at the time, because, and this is probably 98, 99, where hip hop was really, like, commercialism was really starting to take over hip hop at that time, where that's when it started to get to where it is today. You know what I mean? And so I wrote this whole article about how hip hop wasn't keeping it real and why this song was so relevant to what's going on, because corporate America is using hip hop as a cash cow. And I got my first A. I now remember where I got my first A. That wasn't gym or English. Or anything artistic. Right? I got an A.
Do you still have this?
The article? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I actually do have it. My mom actually found it in her garage recently, actually.
That's amazing.
But at my first A, he entered it into a newspaper contest, like for schools and stuff. And I won second place. It actually got into the school newspaper, so that's what I found in the school newspaper. And then throughout the whole year, he would just keep doing that. Everything, he would take my interests and be like, and apply them to the assignments that we're working on. And then the final project that we had is, once they taught us all the different forms of media and stuff, we had to find last project to give you, that's like 60% of your final mark and all that shit. So ours was, we had to now design our own form of media. And he was like, it can be a magazine, a newspaper, whatever you want. And then he's like, or you can do something visual. And he's like, I brought in some equipment. And remember when IMAX, the first IMAX with the round colorful backs and all that? So he brought in that. He brought one of those in, and he brought in like a digital high 8 camera. And he was like, well, you can do something visual. And so again, at the end of the class, I went to him, I was like, "Mr. Reed, I don't really know what to do for this last assignment." And he goes, "Don't they make documentaries about music?" And he always would like just ask questions. You know, like on TV and movies, those like Zen master type of people that like ask you a question to make you realize the answer you were looking for. So he would always do that, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I see where you're going with this. So he's like, how about you do a documentary? And he's like, remember the newspaper article you wrote about, you know, hip hop and how it's not keeping real and all this stuff? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, how about you turn that? He's like, how about you make that the premise of your documentary? And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So he gave me the camera. So I said he's the first person to put a camera in my hand, and he helped me get like interviews with like A&Rs at the record labels, and like he got me interviews with like producers at Much Music. It was my first time stepping into the Much Music building, which I eventually later, which I know we'll talk about, interned at. And like that's the first directed by Cazhhmere production. You know what I mean? And it was him that helped me realize that. And once he put that camera in my hand, like, and we had like the old school editing equipment with like the little dial thing that you had to like literally rewind the film back to like cut the part that you wanted. Yeah. And once I touched that, like I was like, I know what I want to do. Like, that's why I say my friends, even though I was going to university because it's what I was told to do, all my friends knew that that was what I really wanted to do. You know what I mean? And he was the first person to help me realize that, you know? And that's why I say like, it's important to, in this day and age, to like help people realize that you can take your personal interests and translate, or you know, them into the adult world, you know, because that's, like I say, he's the Zen master, because that's what he was doing by asking me all those questions, right? You know, I listen to music. He's like, don't newspapers have music reviews? And he's like, well, somebody's got to write them. That means that they are paying people to listen to music and then go write their opinion about it. And I'm like, shit, for real though. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm already listening to music. That's what I do all day. So if somebody pay me, I'll tell you my opinions about it, you know? Then it was like, don't people make documentaries about music? Because he knew music was my interest. And I'm like, yeah, they do. And I'm like, shit, somebody had to make it. That means they paid somebody to go interview all these people and make talk about music. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and the only difference between me and them is they're adults and I'm still a kid. So now I'm just like, damn, I can't wait to get an adult so I can do that, you know? But like I said, because our parents come from a generation where there are options for them where after high school, you go to college and learn a trade so that you can work with your hands and make money, whether it's nurse, garbage disposal person, you know, mailman, construction worker, plumber, whatever it was, a physical trade. Or if you were really smart, you went to university so that you become a doctor or a scientist or somebody's business owner. You know what I mean? But that was it. Those were the options, you know? So that's what, because our parents were raised in a generation where those were the options, they brought us up with that same mentality. But we're all from the 80s onward, shit was changing in a very big, different way. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's important now to let people know that we live in an age where, for the most part, most of our personal interests can all be turned into adult life things. You know what I mean?
Right. Cool. Can you teach me how to write a video treatment?
Of course. Can I ask what's a video treatment?
A video treatment is, it's essentially, it's the concept of a music video explained on paper. Cool. Right. Because when you're pitching an idea for a music video,
you're about to hear why this is so important for me to learn. Continue. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, you can't you gotta write it, because if not, you're shooting the music video. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's only two ways you can pitch an idea, like show someone the idea,
or try to sell them on the idea that's in your brain that they can't see.
Exactly. And that's what a music video treatment is. It's taking the idea that's in your brain and putting it on paper, so that the person you're pitching it to can look at it and be like, oh, okay, I see what your vision is. I like it, or I don't like it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And there's many, especially in this day and age, there's plenty of different ways to write a music video treatment. Right. You know what I mean? When I first started, most treatments were just all words on a page. Now I see music video treatments and like there's like 12 words and like a bunch of like visual like imagery that represent the vision. You know what I mean? Right. But when I first started, you had to figure out how to take what's in your head and find the words to describe that, put it on the page, so that when the person was reading it, whether it was the manager or the A&R, the label, or whoever it is, they would read those words and see what you saw in your head, you know?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a business plan for your music video?
For your vision, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
For a signed artist, do they have any say, or does it depend on the artist?
It depends on, I guess, every situation is different, you know? I remember years ago, like maybe late 90s, where I saw Madonna on TV. I think it was Madonna. It was either Madonna or Mariah Carey. And they were on like one of those late night TV shows, and they were about to premiere. They're talking about the new music video, right? How it premieres tomorrow. And they were like, tell us about it. Are you happy with the income? And she's like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't seen it? Yeah. Like, you're Madonna / maybe Mariah Carey, you know?
Like, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar.
It's like, but my point is like, they're like big name artists,
right?
Like, and they haven't seen their video. Whereas, you know, there's some artists where they're involved in it the whole way through, you know? Like Beyonce could pretty much damn near direct the video herself if she wanted to, because she's that involved in the whole conception of everything visual that goes with along with any project she puts out. You know what I mean? So it's like it depends, you know. And a lot of indie artists, sometimes they, you know, have a lot more input into the visual concept. It depends, you know. For signed artists, especially, it really depends, I guess, on how big you are. But even if it's how big you are, sometimes like maybe Madonna was just too busy to look at it. She's like, you guys got this. You know what I mean? Because she is Madonna, maybe Mariah, and so they're busy, you know? So, and who knows? You know what I'm saying?
What's it like working, because we hear about the industry and like how it's different than, especially those from the Black community. Yeah. Where our way of thinking is maybe like it's more on your word and like here's what it is, and like we have conversations and we act accordingly. And Hollywood is kind of we'll do the thing, and then you may never hear from people again. So can you talk about your experience in like being in big Hollywood and like working with these people who may have been Mariah Carey or Madonna, who are so big that they don't even have time to look at their video treatment?
Yeah. No, you know, because I personally, at least the signed artists that I've worked with, fortunately, none of them have been those artists where they're at least not aware. Like, I want all my artists to be aware of what's going on, because like, last thing I want is when you do see the video, you're like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Like, this is not what I thought it would be, you know? Then like at the end of the day, all these like the machine that is, if you're a music artist, that's like all the, you know, the machine that makes it run, the label management, this, that, and the third, whatever. They're all a bunch of yes people until the artist gets really upset. Then they just start blaming everything on each other, you know? So for me, the last thing I want is for the machine to be controlling everything and the artist not really know what's going on. And then, you know, they should show up on set and it's like, okay, so about this nude bathtub scene, you know? And then the female says, what? I didn't agree to do any bathtub scene. What the fuck is all this, you know? That's not what I want, because one, on set, time is money, so I don't have time to be you know, the artist to be having any surprises. And then also when that happens, then the management is just gonna, like, the whole machine is gonna be like, what, you know, blame it on each other, and then eventually the blame will just come back on me, you know? So
is that something that you consider when you're taking on work?
Oh yeah, of course. Like, I don't, especially at this point in my career, like, I don't make music videos to make money. I don't do anything that I do to make money, because if you're trying to be in the entertainment industry and in the artistic industry, whatever it is, your art is, if you're in it, in the artistic creative industry, to make money, quit now. Because one, the chances of you making money, and this is no disrespect to anybody, the chances are very slim, no matter how fucking great your shit is. You know what I mean? And that stands for everybody, my own self included, you know?
Why do you think that?
It's an extremely big ocean we live in this creative world. And with the internet, it just became the whole world. You know what I mean? And so it's just like ginormous ocean, a lot of fucking fish. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And, you know, it's hard to make money doing anything creative, especially at the highest level. In any creative industry, making it to the highest level is really hard to do. Look at artists. I don't know if it's still true, but it was always said that as an artist, you don't make money till you die. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean I don't make money till I die? So what am I spending my whole life painting for? Painters, they don't become artists to make money now, if that's still the same thing, because I understand, like, the value of the painting is more greater after the person is not here. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my point. Like, to get to the highest level of any creative field is really freaking hard to do. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're in it to make money, just quit. Because that's one reason. And then two, if you're in it to make money, to be honest, your shit's probably not all that good. You know what I'm saying? Because the best artists it's their livelihood. You know what I mean? Like, it's in their soul. They bleed that art, that creativity that they do. They do it because they have to, not because they want to. And by meaning they have to, it's like they can't do anything else. You know what I mean? Even if they tried. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I can't do anything but tell stories, even if I tried, you know? I can't have a normal conversation with my friends without being a storyteller and, like, being animated. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, because that's just me. That's who I am. I'm a storyteller, you know? And so it's like the people that, you know, really are good at art in any form of creativity, it's like they do it because that's what I mean by, like, they have to. It's like, if they don't do it, they're going to stop breathing. You know what I mean? Right. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, my brand, Direct or Die, that's why I call it Direct or Die. It's because if I'm not doing this, I'm gonna, like, my body's gonna just disappear. Like, you know, like how in the movies, when you look at Medusa and your body just turns to stone and then all of a sudden it turns to dust and it blows away and then you're just gone out of existence. Yeah. If I ever stop telling stories, that's literally what will happen to me, you know?
So for you then, because we talk a lot about creative entrepreneurship on this show and how to make your way using art, pursuing your passion. To you, is there a difference between pursuing art to make money versus making a living?
Great question, Lauren. It's a great question. Yeah. Art is how I make my living, but I don't do art to make money.
There's the difference, everybody. That's
you know
kind of the important distinction. Yeah.
And really it's because, like I said, for me, life is direct or die. Meaning if I don't tell stories, I'm gonna die. So, all right, if stories is what I'm gonna do every day, then I gotta figure out how to get this to make me some money. Because I'm an adult and I need to eat or I'll die. You know what I mean? So it's like, but that's like, that's how I make my money. It's like part of my living, but I make a living doing art, but I don't do art to make money.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that, okay, so I have a brand that's basically art. Talks about getting paid to make art.
Because you should get paid for your art.
Yes. You should. Yeah. Do you find, like, speaking of what you just said, so I find myself in situations where people around me sometimes don't get it, so my brand may be called Art Pays Me, but I agree with what you said, actually, in terms of you just gotta chase that passion.
For sure.
But, you know, basically don't let people play you for that money. If they owe you some money, they owe you some money. But anyway, I digress. What you should what I'm saying is, like, if you ever are you ever in a situation where people are telling you shouldn't do a certain thing because you can't guarantee that there's a financial benefit coming from that work. I'm in this situation where I'm like, oh, I gotta do that, but why? And it's like, well, I just have to, but that's gonna cost us a lot of money for you to chase that. I'm like, yeah, but the potential, the what I'm gonna get out of it outweighs all of that risk, right? Do you ever find yourself putting yourself in those situations where, like, you might be putting yourself at financial risk or something like that to chase?
Of course. Like, for example, in addition to directing, like, I'm a writer, right? Which means I write narrative scripts for film and television. Being a writer is a financial risk. Because you don't get paid until a movie studio or TV network wants to buy your script. That doesn't happen for till how long? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I have a script right now where I've been working on it literally for the past 2 years in my life, you know? That's 2 years of not getting paid just because I have the idea and I believe in it, and I'm like, this should be a fucking movie. So I'm gonna write it, and I'm gonna tell somebody, you need to make this a fucking movie. You know what I mean? Like, cause it should be. But that was, I made that decision. You know what I mean? It's nobody told me to make that movie, you know, write that script. Like, there are situations like that where as a writer, once you get in the writing industry, the writing game, you will get those calls where people pay you to write a script, you know what I mean? But to get to that level, you gotta write some damn scripts, you know, and then get those people knowing your scripts, so they're right, that's a damn good writer, you know? Like, so you got to hire them for our next movie or our next whatever, you know? But being a writer in general, or even just a writer, like if you're writing a book or a novel or whatever, that's a financial risk, because the publisher may not want to buy your book and read it and be like, oh, this is trash, you know? You just spent who knows how long, a year, 4 years of your life writing a story that no one's interested in, you know what I mean? So it's like, but as creative people, that's what we do, you know? Like, that's why, again, you know, you don't become a creative to make money, you know, but you allow your creativity to make you money, because if not, you're gonna have to go work at Starbucks, you know, to support yourself, which I've done, not Starbucks, but I've, you know, held down part-time jobs as I was on my come up, you know, like getting my foot in this door, you know, because like I said, you gotta eat or you're gonna die. And, you know, so I've done that. And especially in that part of my life, I did a lot of that, you know, a lot of doing stuff where it's a financial loss for me because I'm not gonna get paid for it. I'm not gonna make any money, but it got my work and my name known more. For the first, 5-6 years of my career, any video I did, I never made any money off of that. You know what I mean? Like, and these are videos that were playing on TV, like on Much Music, when Much Music actually still played music videos and stuff like that. So at that time, having your video played on Much Music was actually a big deal, you know? And so it's like, I got all these videos playing on Much Music, but I'm living at home with my mom. I lived with my mother until I was 30 years old, you know, because during that period of, you know, my 20s and 20 to 30, I was doing what I had to do to get my name and my art be known to the general public, you know, exactly, getting my credibility. And then once I started getting slowly credibility, I still wasn't making any money, because I'm like, I had this elaborate ideas, you know. My producer is like, we can't afford this. I'm like, I want to shoot this video with a giant crane. And he's like, we don't got crane money. You know what I mean? Because we're, you know, it's an indie artist and we're shooting on, it was called Video Fact at the time, but a much fat budget. So like, we don't got crane money. I can get a guy on a ladder. You know what I mean? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, come on, bro. Like, we've just got all this money. Like, it still isn't a lot of money, but in your head as a creative, any money is a lot of money. And so I'm just like, we gotta be a way to get it done. Whereas like, he's showing me the budget and he's like, this pays for this, and this. Show me where I can get crane money from. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't take that money next to the director. There's your crane money. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I wasn't making music videos to make money. I was making music videos so that people know that I'm fucking good at making music videos. And so having that crane was gonna show people even that much more that I'm good at doing music videos. I'm like, I do it on a freaking ladder ain't good enough for me, bro. You know what I mean? I want that crane, because I want camera go like this and go 30 feet up in the air and then come down, boom, right into your face. You know what I mean? And so he's like, all right, I'll pay for it. I'll pay for the freaking crane. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't make the money, but the video was on Much Music, so I got to see my name on TV, and the whole country got to see my name on TV too. Then they're like, yo, you see that dope video for whoever at the time, you know what I mean? Yo, they had freaking crane. Yo, that means they had enough money, lots of money for the video. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I know that just having a crane in it will all of a sudden make that low budget music video suddenly look like a mid-level music video. You know what I'm saying? So, and the people on TV, they don't know no better. They're just seeing the art that I present. So to them, we spent $1 million on that. So now they're like, we got to get that person to do our video. You know what I mean? And then when they find out that it looks like $1 million, but we didn't spend anywhere near $1 million, then it makes me look even better. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Right. What are some of the things, if it's not making money, that's not an issue. What are some of the things that could frustrate you the most as a creative person, and even in building your credibility and doing things?
Ask me the question again.
I know I presented it for you. If it's not, because I find a lot of artists, we have to do our thing to make money.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly chasing money so that we can live. But once you get to a certain point and money's not the chase anymore, what are some of the barriers that now exist? Because money means I need to eat.
The fact that you're making money, so then all of a sudden it becomes a job. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
People that work a regular job, you show up, you get worried to show up late because your boss is gonna get upset, right? Because that's your job. They pay you. You know what I'm saying? And when money is involved, it suddenly becomes a job, And as creative people, we don't like that shit. We don't like people telling us when to clock in, when to be creative. Like, how do you tell somebody be creative from this time to this time? You know what I mean? Like, that's not how creativity works. And if I do decide to be creative from this time to this time, it's probably not going to be my best work. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, all right, fuck, I got to think of something. And because as creatives, we can do what we do with our eyes closed, you know what I'm saying? And our hands tied behind our backs, if push comes to shove, right? A painter can paint anything they want if push comes to shove, you know what I'm saying? A musician can play anything, push comes to shove, just think of whatever, boom, 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 here you go, there's your music. But is it gonna be their best work? Not really, it could be, but probably not, because you can't put a punch card on being creative, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And for me, I think that that's probably the most stressful thing about it, is because the money is involved, which means you have clients, which means clients have expectations, you know what I mean? And oftentimes those clients probably don't come from a creative world like you do. They're coming at it from more of a business approach, and in business, time is everything.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Let's get some dirt. So you ever piss anybody off? They're like, yo, you're playing for my money, let's go.
I'm sure they all think that, because as creative people, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they have. Like, because creative people, like, I don't know a single, even a photographer that will deliver the stills on time. You know what I mean? Especially graphic designers, like, who delivers a logo on time? You know what I mean? None of them do. Not me. I don't deliver edit on time. Like, you know what I mean?
I'm joking, by the way.
No, I'm joking too. I gotta remember we're on the internet. But I'm just saying, like, all my creatives, you already know that's the inside joke, right? That, like, I can't think of any creative that's ever on time. Like, I'll have mutual friends in the industry that are managers or whoever, but that work on the business and the administrative side of things. And they'll hit me up and be like, yo, so I did this photo shoot for whoever with such and such photographer, and I've been chasing them down for 2 weeks to get the final proofs. Like, what do you suggest? You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, what was the reasons that they gave you? And I'll hear the reasons, and I'm in the back of my head, I'm laughing. And if you're my real close friend, I'll be like, all right, listen, when they say that to you, that's just code for they probably didn't even do the edit yet. You know what I mean? Like, and so they're actually doing the edit right now. When they told you, like, no, but she's like, yeah, but first they said Monday, and then Monday became Wednesday, and then Wednesday became the weekend. And I'm like, because on Wednesday is when they actually started the edit. You know what I mean? And so now they're like, okay, by the weekend I'll have the edits for you, and you can get your stuff. You know what I mean?
Sneak peek into the creative's mind.
But it's true. Am I lying? All creatives know this. It's like, that's just like, that's, it's creative journey. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the lingo we speak, right? Like, and to be honest, I'm always like, but why is that? Why are we like that? And I'm like, I've just chopped it up to the fact that, like I just said, like, you can't put a punch clock on creativity. That's not the way it works. But because those people, the clients, they're coming from the business side, and I understand that now, you know what I mean? Because trust me, there's times where I'm waiting on shit, like, I wait on stuff from my own editors, my own people that I work with, and it frustrates me. So when I'm because the bigger you get in your career, you have to, by default, become more of a business person as well, which is also the most stressful, like, annoying thing that bothers me. You know what I'm saying?
Why?
Because I'm an artist, man. I don't got time for that. If I had time, I should have went to business school.
Do you find it beneficial? And if so,
it is very beneficial.
In what ways?
Because in this day and age, you got to be about your business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if you want to be up there. You know what I'm saying? Like at the top of your fields. You know, you got to be about your business, plain and simple. But I'm just not that person. Like, I'm an artist. I just want to retreat to my cave and create and tell stories and then send you an email and be like, here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, tell me when I gotta show up on set, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do all that business stuff because that's from, like I just told you, from since school. That was never me to begin with, you know? I'm not that person. I just want to create, you know?
I know Peter is like very much resonating with this point right now because this is one of Peter's sentiments.
You have to do those things. Like even for example, like I'm for the most part, I'm reserved. I'm an artist. Like I just want to be like in my bubble, you know, and nobody bother me. But you can't. That's the reason we're doing this right now. Right. It's the reason, like, we all have Instagrams, you know, and our social medias, and people are always telling me, like, yo, you gotta post more. And I'm like, I don't care about that stuff. Like, no, you're present, but I know that it has, like, it's just the way the world is. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if you want to not just be an artist to create, and you want to translate this into more than that, the business side has to come into play at some point. Right. You know what I mean? And so people are like, nah, like, you can't be like that, you know? For the most part of my career, I didn't even have a director's reel, you know? I'm like, what do I need a director's reel for? If you want to see my work, go turn on the TV. You know what I mean? Like, no, but I'm saying at least for music videos, you know what I mean? Like, myself and the production company that we used to have to do music videos, the NE, with directors like myself, RT, Marc-Andre de Bruyne, and a bunch of others, we kind of ran this shit for a little while, you know what I'm saying, in terms of music videos, you know, as a company, because we were all very talented directors and we just came together as a collective, and so our company was running stuff, you know, and so we had much music on lock, you know what I mean, like, because I was doing predominantly urban music videos, right. For all the Canadian artists that were doing stuff at the time. It's like, people would come to me and be like, yo, every time I turn on Much Vibe, if I just wait for 10 minutes, I'll guarantee I'll see one of your videos. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I'm just like, I just wanted to create art. Like, I wasn't saying I don't need a reel in a cocky way. You know what I'm saying? Right. I just meant it like, I don't want to do that shit. Like, I'm busy working, creating music videos. Like, if you want to see my work, go turn on the TV. I didn't even have Much Vibe at the time. Remember, Much Vibe was like a specialty station. You had to like pay the extra $2.99 for it or whatever. You know what I mean? I didn't even have it, you know? So it's like, I was just saying, like, that was just facts, you know? Like, I'm just worried about I just want to create, and what I need a reel for, because you're going to have to go to reels and pitch yourself and blah, blah. I don't want to pitch. Can't you just do that? You know what I mean? Like, you go pitch me, you know? Like, I don't want to do those things. Just, you know, go tell somebody how dope I am, and then tell me I got the gig, and then I'll go create, and here, hand it to you, and let me do what I do, you know? But that's just not the world that we live in, so you have to have a business sense to it as well. You know what I mean?
I honestly feel like I became a better artist after I started to appreciate business. I think my brand in particular just elevated a lot more because I started to waste less time and start to focus more on things that really mattered. And then I could still segment time to do like authentic creative stuff, but then I have like a time to do the stuff that you're supposed to do as a business person, right? And then with client relations, I find it helped me. Like, I was making people mad less and I was getting mad at them less. So I think it's something to be said for artists to take the business side a little bit more seriously than we have in previous generations, actually.
Oh, no, for sure. And then also, like, from an adult perspective, like, the more I, started being more aware of the business side of things, I realized, like, how much more money can be made. You know what I mean? Right. Like, which makes things easier for me because the more money I make, for a certain part of the year means the rest of the year I can just retreat to my cave and work on my scripts, because writing is not easy. You know what I mean?
Did you ever find like there's people behind the scenes making money off of your work and then you realize, oh, there's money in that pot that I didn't even know existed?
Of course.
Yeah.
For example, remember like the early early stages of like iTunes, and when they started putting music videos for purchase on iTunes. And in Canada, as we all know, well, we don't have it anymore, but for a very long time, the Much Fat existed. And there was a time where during that early stage of, like I said, iTunes, and when music videos started to get put on there, a bunch of us directors that were predominantly doing like music videos that were funded through Much Fat. Most Canadian music videos, especially artists that were signed to labels, partial money or all money was coming from Much Fat for their videos, right? And so we realized, and we were like, so hold on a second. And it's the labels or the managements that put songs and the videos and stuff on its revenue for them. You know what I mean? So we started to include them. We're like, wait a minute. So they just got a grant from Much Fat to do a music video. So this got a free music video that is my creative property. And now you guys have, well, really, because Much Fat paid for it, it's their creative property, even though it's my creative idea. But now you guys are now making money off of it, a revenue off of this from iTunes. And we're like, how does that work? We barely get we don't even get paid what we should off of a Much Fat grant, because we were like stretching the dollars as much as we could, because part of the reason why our company, like I said, the directors, myself, our team, Marc-Andre de Bruyne, and others, why we had so much success is because, like I said before, if you watch our videos, you wouldn't have an idea that they were done through a Much Fat grant, because even if we spent $15,000 on it, which is in like the early 2000s, which was the maximum amount you could get from Much Fat, but eventually moved up to, I think the most amount was like $25,000. But $15,000, $25,000 in relation to how much American labels spend on music videos was nothing. No. But we made it so that even if we spent 25, it would look like we spent 75, if not 100,000. You know what I mean? Like that was our goal. We were determined to make.
How do you do that?
Like I said, I pay for the crane, bro. You know what I mean? Like, so many ways. Like, you know, asking for favors, you know what I mean? Like, you know, begging the most talented crew people, the cinematographers, all these people to like, we know this is what you're worth, but there's a bigger picture involved, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, can you do it for this amount? You know what I'm saying? Things like that. Cutting a lot of corners, you know? But regardless of how we got it done, our goal was always to make music videos that when people watch them, they weren't like, oh, that's a Canadian music video. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a time where you could watch any music video and know that it was funded by Much Fat before the credit even came up at the beginning and end of it. You know what I'm saying? You just looked at it and just knew it was a Much Fat video, but you can't tell that from our videos. I challenge you to go watch any video any director from our company ever did that was funded through Much Fat, and honestly tell me if you think it looked like a Much Fat video. You know what I mean? Because I bet you can. You know, because that was our intent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How do you define an artist?
How do you define an artist?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
How do you define the word artist?
I think an artist is anyone that can conceive a creative thought into existence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's an artist, you know? Whatever that creative thought is. Dancers are artists, you know? They think movement and then they, you know, conceive it into existence by doing those movements or choreographing other people to do those movements. That's art. They're an artist, you know? I don't really think you're an artist if you keep it in here.
Okay.
You're a creative being, but you're not an artist.
Ooh.
An artist is somebody that conceives that thought into actual existence.
Okay, so I'm gonna call you up, Par. So we got one of our listeners who has the question. Like, she's got a lot of different ideas. Doesn't necessarily know which one to pursue. What would your advice be to that?
Do them all.
There you go.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of being a creative being, is that you can do whatever. You know what I mean? Like anything you want. There's artists, there's photographers that end up becoming cinematographers and making movies. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the beauty of art, is that it can morph itself into a lot of different forms and outlets. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that you should limit yourself to, because other art forms is what inspires me. You know what I'm saying? Like I enjoy music. I love music. I've studied music theory, all those sorts of things. I can read music, play it, but I don't. You know what I mean? But I still channel that in other ways, right? Because the music inspires me. Like most of my story ideas come from music. Songs, whether it's lyrical songs or instrumentals, they all tell stories, and those stories make me feel a way, and then I think of stories from that. They inspire stories in my head, and then I conceive them into existence. You know what I mean? Like I said, right?
So your sentiment combats the concept of like find one thing and become really good at one thing versus.
But I think you should start somewhere.
Okay.
I'm not saying just start doing all that shit all at one time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I think in all art, you should start at one place. Just start and focus on one place, one thing, and then let that manifest itself into whatever it may be and guide you in whatever direction you want. Like me, myself, like when I started directing, like most people, especially in this digital world we live in, most people don't know what a director really is and what they do. You know what I mean? And I mean that is because of technology, we all can pick up cameras.
Right.
Shoot shit.
Here we go.
And put it on the internet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And call themselves a director, you know?
Right.
But director never touches a camera. That's not the job of a director. Directors can and do, right? But I'm just saying, like, people don't realize that even within film, like, the director, their role is to direct.
Right.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? Directs. They're kind of like the overseer. Their job is to oversee all aspects of production on your film or TV show, you know what I mean? So they oversee, you know, the look, the art design, the wardrobe, the everything about it, but their actual, aside from overseeing all that, they don't do none of that shit, you know what I mean? The cinematographer operates the camera. Actually, not even, the cinematographer doesn't operate the camera. The camera operator operates the camera. The cinematographer designs the lighting and then tells the camera operator how to shoot that, you know what I mean?
Right.
But people don't realize that, you know? And the director directs. That's what they do. So after they oversee the rest of the crew, they work with the actors, you know?
Right.
And that's it, you know? They don't touch the camera. I mean, I can if I want to. Sometimes I'm like, you know, we're artists. I just want to have a little fun, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and so it's like, let me hold the camera because it feels special. Let me shoot this next shot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's not my job. That's why I have my cinematographer and his crew for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But as I've progressed in my career, I do a lot of those things. When I first started, I would never dare go up to my cinematographer and be like, let me do this next take. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But, you know, 15 years later, like I've learned so much from working with great cinematographers, you know?
Right.
So now it's like when I take the camera, it's like, I'm like the student that wants to show the teacher, you know what I mean? Like show out to the teacher, like look at, let me do this next one, you know what I'm saying? And so like that's why I'll grab the camera, but I've learned from them. When I first started doing music videos, I never used to edit my own music videos. Now I edit my own music videos. And at the time it was because there was a point in my career in music videos where I was bored, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't enjoying my work. It looked decent. Artists, clients like it. People that watch it on TV, they all loved it. But me personally, as an artist, I wasn't content with it because I was at a stagnant point. I got to that point where like I was saying earlier, I could do that shit with my eyes closed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Send me a song. All right, cool. All right, what's the song about? I hear the beat. I listen to like the first minute and a half of the song. And then all right, I know what you guys want. You know what I mean? Because it became standard. Like, it would be a rap song, you know? So, and it's like, all right, I know what you guys want. What's the song about? All right, first verse, chorus. All right, done. So we're going to have cars. We're going to have this. We're going to have that, you know? All right, here's the treatment. Let's go shoot the video. All right, we got to shoot this. You know what I mean? Shoot the car. Shoot the big booty girl. Shoot this. Shoot that. Get a shot of the jewelry. Hand it to my editor. All right, bro, chop it up. Make it quick. Do some cool little cuts and all that. Put it together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I could do that with my eyes closed. But as an artist, you always want to grow. You know what I'm saying? And you never want to just it should never be easy for us, you know? And because as artists, we're like always like to have our minds expand and we want to always keep learning stuff. And so now, at my point is like I got bored, and my good friend and mentor RT, who's, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, he's a music video director, one of Canada's most successful music video directors. And my big brother, we started the company together, and he's, like I said, close friend and mentor. So anyways, I expressed this to him, and he was like, you should try cutting one of your own videos. He's like, I did it, because like, I've been there before. And he's like, you should try cutting one of your own videos because it's going to help you see your video from someone else's perspective. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, what you see and how you direct it is different than how and once you hand that footage over and how your editor sees it and stuff, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, I get it, because when I'm in edit sessions with my editors, there'll be times where editor wants to do something, but he's like, oh, did you happen to shoot this or this angle or whatever? I'm like,
right.
Nah, I didn't. I don't even understand why you want that. But anyways, he's like, it's gonna help you see things in a different way. And he's like, your next shoot, he's like, I guarantee you're gonna prepare your shot list and all that stuff in a completely different perspective than you ever had, because now you're gonna remember your experience editing, and you're gonna start to see your video as an editor while you're on set. Even when you're writing the treatment and when you're on set, you're gonna see it from an editor's perspective, and you're gonna be like, all right, so excuse me, like I need this shot, and this shot. You know, he's like, sometimes as directors, sometimes we tend to overshoot things, or sometimes we can undershoot something. You know what I mean? Because we're just looking at it from our own perspective as a director. So we're like, no, I need this, and this.
Yeah.
And then you go give your footage to your editor, and then 80% of that shit doesn't even make it in the edit. You know what I mean? And you're like, what the fuck, bro? Like, he's like, oh, we didn't need it. And you're like, it's good. So you're like, yeah, I guess we don't need it. Or you think you know it, and then you just, I just need this, and this. That's it. And everyone's like, are you sure? You don't want? No, I don't want that. I just need this, and this. You know? And then you hand that to your editor, and you see your edit, and I'm just like, oh, this shit's boring, bro. And he's like, well, I didn't really have much to work with. Why didn't you shoot this, and this, and this?
Right.
You know? And so it's like, he was like, once you start editing stuff, he's like, you're gonna see it from that perspective. And so when you're on set, you're already gonna know your edit, for the most part. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or you'll at least you'll approach your directing from an editor's perspective. So sometimes you may, even though you have planned a bunch of shots already, while you're on set, you be like, you know what? After we get the shots that are on the actual list, let's get this shot too, because I think I might need it in the edit if I want to do something blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or I said the opposite, where you plan like 18 million shots. And on set, everything takes freaking time. So even though you plan your schedule out, everything takes longer than it should. So you run out of time, schedule, money, all these things. And sometimes you'll be like, you're in that situation, like, all right, well, I got all these shots. I don't really need this one and this one. So let's get rid of that. That cuts back the time in our schedule. Like, so many other things can happen, you know? It's because I'm like, I see the edit already. I don't need that. And I became an editor by default, you know what I mean? Like, and I've learned all types of other things, you know, because of like, I started learning more about plays and different stuff, just because like, as a director, I wanted to grow in my own like art form. And because of that, it led me to other areas of art, you know? And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, I never used to take pictures, but I do photography. It's kind of like a hobby thing, you know what I mean? But I never used to do it at all, you know what I'm saying? But me wanting to learn more about lenses from a cinematographer's perspective, by default, helped me get into photography. You know what I mean? So
this is really cool. Sorry to cut you off. I just I've been going through kind of a very similar I feel like I've reached almost not a plateau, but a stagnant time in my business development and video storytelling, or my young career of doing it. And I love that you're saying like try to do other things and learn other aspects of it, because I found I'm like, how do I make this 1 minute video better? And part of me is like, oh, maybe I make a 15-minute project instead of a 1 minute project. So is it switching up the type of content that I'm making, or like you said, like finding a different way to look at something that you're creating anyway? So I'm glad that you shared that sentiment, because it makes a lot of sense.
It helps you understand just stuff. Like, for example, quickly, I started to get into studying like classic artworks.
right?
Okay.
And like in my teenage, like early 20 years and stuff like that. And because of that, you guys know the like a new Jay-Z and Beyonce video that was out. They shot at the museum in Paris. So
Ape shit.
a bunch of people had asked me, they're like I'm like, it's so dark, and I'm like, you wanna know why it's so dark? I'm like, because they don't even let tourists take pictures of Mona Lisa.
Right.
I'm like, do you guys understand how that just shows you how much power, not just money, okay?
Yeah.
Because they don't care about the money. You get what I'm saying? It's the power. You guys don't understand that how much power, that the fact that they're even there and that Beyonce and Jay-Z got permission to shoot that.
Right.
I'm like, when I first saw, that was the first thing I noticed when I saw the video, and I was like, they filmed the Mona Lisa? I'm like, who okayed that?
Right.
I want to know who they know that they got them to, yeah, sure, no problem. Because I'm like, tourists who pay to go there can't even won't let you take a picture. If you get caught sneaking one with your cell phone, they'll kick you out of the museum. They don't care if you just started the tour. You know what I mean? That's how protective they are of it. And so because of that, I'm pretty sure that one of the stipulations of allowing them to shoot there was that on film, we need lights, or it's not gonna look good, or it's not gonna be able to see them at all. And so there's lighting, but I'm sure they said you guys can't put bright, hot, and especially film lights are hot as fuck. You guys are minimal lighting. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm pretty sure that part of the agreement was that they had to do minimal lighting in the scenes with the artwork, especially with Mona. You know what I'm saying? Because she's the girl. So I'm just like, that's why it's so darkly lit and stuff like that.
Right.
Like they incorporated that into the concept of the video, because it's like, I'll put a flashlight on Mona if you guys let me shoot in front of her. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'll use as much minimal lighting as you guys want if you're gonna let me do it. But it's because I just know that from studying art. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've been to the museum, and so I know all these things. But even if I hadn't been there, I know because I took an interest in that. I suddenly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anything
for sure.
to do with art somehow connects its way back to each other. You know what I mean? Like growing up was never really into fashion, and I'm not talking like wearing like the latest like Jordans and stuff like that. I'm talking about real like haute couture fashion. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stuff like that. And I never really had an interest in that growing up, but I started to, a friend and mentor of mine, Director X, he used to go by Little X, he started suggesting, like, he looks at a lot of magazines, like, he was like, go look at fashion magazines. Like, I'm always flipping through fashion magazines. I get all kinds of ideas from that. He's like, you ever looked at the photography and, like, just the clothing and all that stuff in Vogue and W magazine and all that? And I'm like, nah, not really. He's like, you should. And I did, and I do to this day. Like, one of my, as our creative being, one of my weekly, not weekly, I'll say like bi-weekly or at least once a month routines is I go to Indigo and I do a magazine run, and I buy Vogue, W, I started buying Architectural Digest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all these different magazines, right? And then throughout the month, I flip through them. I don't even really read the articles. Sometimes I get into reading the articles, but for the most part, I started this because I want to look at the pictures,
Right. Yeah.
And one, architecture is art, fashion is art,
Right.
and by my own trait, it's got me into looking at all of those things, So now it's like in Toronto, like I started going in the past couple of years to like the Toronto Fashion Weeks that they have, and like going to the shows and stuff. And now I can sit there and like I know what's going on. Like I can talk about, they did this, the French cut. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I love that dress. Or the suit. Like, and talk about the cuts and the materials and all those things, because I started learning about fashion because I wanted to be inspired by looking through the fashion magazines. I know about architecture now. I can go to people's houses and tell you how the house was built, and tell you what kind of axles and all this type of stuff that they did, and not just like the interior but the exterior of the house as well, just because I started getting into Architectural Digest, because they have the most beautiful locations, interior locations, which gives me ideas for especially music videos, or music videos all about aesthetic, which is like you gotta make that shit look good, that's the main thing with music videos. And so from a music video perspective, magazines like that are the perfect thing for me to reference or to get inspired by,
I'm going to shift this conversation.
Do it.
Because this is fascinating.
I was waiting for
Let's
you.
shift it.
But I've got a couple of things that I would love to dig into with you, Cazhhmere, and I want to bring this conversation back to our Scotian roots.
Okay.
Most recently,
902.
my sister and I, she's in the back. Hi, Hilly.
Hi,
We
sis.
were in Vancouver coaching Canada Cup, and it was obviously all the way on the other side. And we're from little Podunk, Nova Scotia, and I know what our reputation is in the sport world, at least around volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't very good.
No.
Okay? We don't invest the time or the resources or the manpower in coaches or athletes the way that a lot of the Western teams do.
Here we
And
go.
so,
Here we go.
see, I didn't get to vent my week on
That
Monday because I was
deserves a side,
too
though. That
bloody
deserves a
tired.
side.
Yeah.
See, because I know that she's going to have some of these similar experiences.
Yes.
Our experience when we went out west, this is our first time coaching a provincial team, have competed at a very high level, all those kinds of things. Huh? Okay, but people were so fucking rude. Like, first of all, super rude. And I'm like, is this just me? Like, I'm looking at Hill, I'm like, is this us? Or are we just like have all these stellar expectations? Or people just straight up not polite? Okay, all right. They're looking first. They look at what the name that's on your shirt, right? And Hillary and I are not that old. Hillary just turned 27 on Sunday while we were still in Vancouver.
Happy belated.
And,
Happy birthday.
I'm not quite 30. So we walk in. We're of mixed heritage. We're from Podunk, Nova Scotia. We're young women, and we're coaching young women.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, people are rude to us because we're from Scotia. I shouldn't assume that it's because we're from Scotia. They're rude. We are questioned with a lot of raised eyebrows from older white men that are coaching young women's volleyball.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the coaches?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Okay. And then the way that we're treated because our team didn't perform as highly as some of the other teams because we don't get this kind of exposure, noses turned up at us. And so my question is, because I experienced this in the business world as well. Oh, you're from Halifax? Okay, you're not from Toronto, or you're not from Vancouver, or whatever. Okay, that's cute.
Yeah.
Is that similar in your industry? Like, because you are from Scotia, is there a stigma or is there an expectation because of where you're from with your work?
I mean, to be honest, for me, the biggest thing that I get is that people just for some reason aren't aware that there's black people that live in Nova Scotia. Honestly, they're just like, oh, you're from Nova Scotia? There's black people there?
Yeah.
Like, you believe it or not? You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
But I think, see, I'm on my social media business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I am happy if that
Social
hasn't
media
been
thing.
if that hasn't been your experience, like in your industry, then I'm happy about that. But is there anything around being from an East Coast?
I won't say that it hasn't. I'll say this. I'm about to get really real for a second.
Good,
Okay?
here we go.
Talk about it.
The stipulations that me personally that I get when people know I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia, I guess it depends on what scenes you're in. Especially in the entertainment industry, the music side of things, and I'll say particularly in the urban entertainment community, which is predominantly black people. They see me, I'm black, and they think I'm from Halifax, so automatically they think that everyone in my family is pimps and hoes. To be honest with you, that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna be real. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's in at least in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? At least in Toronto, for the most part, if you're black and you're from Halifax or anywhere in Nova Scotia, because to people outside of people in Toronto, Halifax is all of Nova Scotia. You know what I mean? So if you're black, if you're a guy, for the most part, they probably think you're a pimp, and if you're a girl, for the most part, they think you're a stripper. You know, outside of that, another stipulation is that.
What does that feel like?
What does it feel like?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's depends on the social scene setting that I'm in. You get me? Because within the black community, and particularly because of the last name that I have, I get a lot of respect. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But then, all the authority figures, cops, and all that, in Toronto. That's annoying because I think everybody in my family is a pimp. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I live in a Toronto's the capital of condos. Everywhere in Toronto right now is condos. So when I say I live in a nice condo, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying like I live in an exceptionally well designed condo from the exterior to the interior. Where I used to live in a particular condo, they call it South Beach, right? Because once you step into the property, like you gotta drive in and like it's designed like it's a condo in South Beach, Miami. You know what I'm saying? Cool. And so it's anyways, I lived there. I used to live there. A cousin of mine who happened to be from down home was visiting, and he was driving his own car, so he had a Nova Scotia license plate, and he got pulled over twice when he was pulling in to the driveway to the roundabout to my condo, and when he was leaving, he got pulled over. He literally called me and he's like, "What the fuck kind of building do you? What area you got me living in?" He's like, "I thought you lived in the nice part of town." You know what I mean? He's like, "You got me feeling like you live in the hood." You know? And I'm like, "Why? What happened?" He's like, "I got pulled over coming into your building and pulling out of your building." And I'm like, "Well, why'd they pull you over for?" And he's like, "I'm pretty sure he just pulled me over because he saw the Scotian plates, and then he asked for my ID, and then he's like, he looked at the ID and he's like, Downey, eh?" And he's like, "Oh, I know all your uncles," and starts naming off all these known, uncles, all these names and all this stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, you're going up there, eh? Who you visiting up there?" And unfortunately, that building within Toronto is known to have a lot of working girls that live in the building. And so a lot of the guys are around as well. And so they're just looking at him thinking he's a pimp just because they saw the Scotians plate and then asked for his ID and saw the last name Downey. He's like, "You're going up there, eh? Who you visiting up there?" He's like, and he starts joking around. It's like, we call this building Pimp Lawn. The street that it's on is called Park Lawn Avenue, and they call it Pimp Lawn because that building and a lot of the buildings in that street are known to have a lot of young girls, and not all of them are strippers. You know what I mean? It sucks because it's just like if you're a young pretty girl living in a condo in Toronto, most people think that you're a stripper. Just know that. You know what I mean? And it sucks, and I moved from that building because I got tired of being judged. And it's like I'm me, and all of a sudden I have my family, my friends, and an artist that I work with. They're all coming to visit me, and it's like I got tired of having people assume that I'm just like, who knows what the hell they're thinking. You know what I'm saying? Because all the people just think all these pimps coming up and down into my place, and who knows? I got tired of that. So but that's Toronto. Like that's from a black person's perspective and living in Toronto, that's pretty much what they think of all of us. So
it's pretty shit.
Yeah, I guess. To be honest with you, that when I started working in this industry in 2003, that's the main reason why I used a nickname that was given to me in university as like my working professional name. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want where I'm from and my last name to have any association with what I do for a living. You know what I'm saying? I don't want people to judge me, you know? And I was like, nah, anyone that knows Cazhhmere is from Halifax, and that I'm very proud of where I come from. You know what I mean? And I always represent and big up to the fullest, But like I said, when I was young and started out, I just wanted people to judge me for my work and my art and my creativity and the hard work that I put in. Like I was interning at Much Music at the time, and it's a funny story. You guys remember Much Vibe? TV show Much Vibe with Haligonian, VJ, light-skinned black girl, big curly hair. I interned in the urban music department there, and so I worked on Much Vibe, which is a live Saturday show. We had a live DJ, and then we have celebrity guests come in and all that sort of stuff. And then we had Rhapsody, and then we had the Down Low, which is like a R&B, contemporary R&B, evening show on Wednesday nights. Anyways, Much Vibe on the Saturday show was always live. And like I said, we always had a guest DJ every week. Whether it was a DJ from out of town or a local DJ. And oftentimes, local DJs will bail on us at the last second, or we had like a couple like American DJs that missed their flights, or you know what I mean? Like whatever the hell. So because it's a live show, we still gotta go on air. and because I was the intern, whenever a DJ didn't show up, I had to be the DJ. This was at a time when labels were labels, much music was much music, music television was much music television. CD singles was still a thing when we used to go to the store and actually buy the singles, right? So labels still sent because we were the music station, TV station. Labels would send us I never had to pay for album. I got every artist, any album that came out. Like labels just depending on so if you were the rock department, obviously the labels would send you all the new rock artists that would come out. So we were the urban department, so I got every album single that came out, and vinyl was still a thing at the time, so we would get a lot of the vinyl too from the labels. They would just send them to us, and so those were my crates, and so I always had the latest singles because the labels were sending them to us, and so I ended up having to be the DJ. So the first time that happened, right before we went live on air, and then McGinney was like, wait, but what do I call you, and she's like, I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, what, you want me to say we got...
No, you can keep going.
You want me to say we got? So you want me to say we got Cazhhmere? I'm like, no, don't use my government name. Are you dumb? You know what I mean? I'm like, hell no. She's like, what do I call you? I'm like, call me Cazhhmere. It was a nickname that a friend of mine gave me when I was working at the Gap at Halifax Shopping Center when I was going to Cazhhmere. And I was like, yeah, call me Cazhhmere. And so, yeah, she's the first episode. She's like, we got DJ Cazhhmere here. And then, the next day, everyone was like, I didn't know you were a DJ. I thought you were trying to make music videos. I'm like, I'm not a DJ. No, I saw you on T on Much Live yesterday. DJ Cazhhmere, And I'm just like, well, cool. People know my name, and it has no association with anything that has to do with where I'm from or my family or anything like that. You know what I mean? And then also at the time, I come from an era where directors all had cool names. Little X, Hype Williams, you know what I mean? And things like that. Spike Jones, And so I was like, I need a cool director name, And like I said, it has no association. It's just me. It has nothing to do with anything, the negative stipulations that people have about black people from Nova Scotia. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But on the other industry side of things, I mean, I think that people have the perception that the only thing entertainment industry-wise that happens in Nova Scotia is folk music, Anne Murray, and Trailer Park Boys, and Anna Green Gables. Yeah. That's about it. That's pretty much all they know. But they do know that the East Coast runs the folk music game. They do know that, though.
Right. No. I have a question for you because I've heard you spoke about I feel like someone asked you previously why is there no OVO in the East Coast? Why there's not a conglomerate of creative people working together the way that it's happening in larger cities. And I don't want to answer for you, but I'm curious, why do you think that we're on the East Coast not progressing as far as we maybe should be in the creative fields? And how does collaboration play its part in that?
I'll give you the same answer I gave them, but I'm gonna say it in a little bit more blunt-ish kind of way than I did before. The reason that there aren't any collectives like OVO or XO or any of the collectives that started in Toronto and have grown into huge, humongous things is because Nova Scotia and the city of Halifax in particular is a very racially divided city. Fucking racism everywhere in the city, and it sucks. Plain and simple. And the reason I say that, and I know, especially look, we're a room full of racially diverse people. You know what I mean? And we're all the smart people. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of fucking dumb people in this city and in this province as a whole that are still stuck in the 1960s. And it's no fault of their own other than they were raised by people that were here in the 1960s, and their parents were raised by people in the 1970s, and so on and so forth. And for whatever reason, Nova Scotia as a whole is stuck in a time warp. And it's there's literally a protective barrier around us where we just can't get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Because in Toronto, I walk around with confidence. when I come to Halifax, especially when I step out of like my, like, you know, visiting my family and all that stuff, when I go, like just today, me and my mom, we were in Dollarama, and then we went to the liquor store. And when I go to places of business in Halifax, I immediately lose part of my confidence because I know that I'm being judged because I'm a black person. I know this for a fact. You know what I'm saying? And that's just because that is the environment that lives in this city. You know what I mean? And even though I don't live here anymore, like this is still home. My family is here, so I still have ties here. And so I know people that go through this experience every day. And so I know for a fact that it's not just me. You know what I mean? Like it's still the same, you know? And that really sucks. Like, don't get me wrong. I know there's racism in Toronto, you know what I mean? But you think I give a fuck, you know? But I always to acknowledge the fact that as soon as I come home, it's like I start to feel a little small. You know what I mean? Because I'm being judged by, I feel like I'm being judged, you know, by, because of the race, the color of my skin. And I'm just like, I don't know, man, you know? It's weird to me. And I say that because all these movements and crews that are putting Toronto culture on the map, they're all an OVO, you know, 40, who's his producer, he's white Jewish guy. You know what I mean? You have Nico, who's, you know, a lot of the, like, he runs, like, he's heavily responsible for taking care of, like, OVO merch brand. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, OVO clothing and all that stuff. Like, Nico, he's, like, Filipino, like, Asian and black, I think. He might be full on Filipino. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it looks like he could have a little black in him. I can't remember for sure. You know? Like, and then, you know, Drake, he's half Jewish, half black. He's got, you know, his manager, Future, the Prince, who used to be his DJ. He's, I think he's Sudanese. I think Future is Sudanese. He's from Africa. Okay. You know, like he's of African descent. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? Like they're all of different cultures and races. You know, everyone on XO. You know, like The Weeknd, he's African. You know, and then you have Belly, who's he's from the Middle East, right? Yeah. And then you have Lamar, who's responsible for a lot of the creative like vision behind The Weeknd, right. You know, Nav, Lamar's black. Nav, who's another artist from the EXO camp, he's Indian, you know. Yeah. And there's just like you know, Manny Dion, who's, you know, part of the management team. He's Greek, you know, like they're all everything. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then even some of the other, you know, crews and stuff that are developing in Toronto, you know, they all come from everywhere. Like Jessie Reyes, you know, like she's doing big things, opening up for Jay-Z and all this stuff. And she's Colombian. Her manager's Colombian. The other manager, he's a white guy from Vancouver. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then she does a lot of work and music with Daniel Caesar, who's also, you know, blowing up and as an artist blowing up in the mainstream market. He's a young black kid. You know what I'm saying? Like name any artistic collective in Toronto that's come out of Toronto that's, you know, having a lot of mainstream success outside of Toronto and outside of Canada. All their collectives, it's all teams. There's not one person behind it, you know, even though the artist is the face of it, it's a collective that puts all that together. You know what I mean? That's why when Drake talks, he reps OVO. He doesn't just rep himself. You know what I'm saying? You know, and The Weeknd, like he reps XO. He's not just repping himself. You know, and all the rest of the artists out there, it's a collective of people behind them all and a whole team. And again, they're all a mix of everything. You know, like, and you can name any other crew out there, and I can tell you, I'll break down the racial backgrounds and cultural backgrounds of everyone in those crews, and that's like why it is, because it's one, they're all taking what is them and bringing that to the creative pot, you know, and they're creating doper art for that, you know what I'm saying? In Halifax, I don't see that, and a lot. It's slowly but surely starting to, but it's not happening as much as it should, and it's because the whole city as a whole has a racial divide, and it's because that's just what this whole city has been brought up on, generation after generation after generation, because the shit doesn't change. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's the biggest problem that there is right now. I know plenty of artists, you know, in the city that are of many different races, but most of them don't even know each other, you know, or they know of each other, but they'll never connect and build with each other just because, you know, dumbass reasons, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because they're allowing themselves to be divided by an invisible divider.
Right.
You know?
How do we fix that?
I mean, I guess you just gotta stop being a dumbass and like reach out to people, you know what I mean? And acknowledge that art is art, and you're either good at it or you're not, no matter what side, you know, of the spectrum you come from. And look at, especially with music these days, like music is so like a mishmash of everything, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you know, like even hip hop is not really hip hop these days, you know, because it's like there's so much other stuff involved in it, you know what I mean? Like there's hip hop artists that like to have like rock elements of their stuff, you know, like there's so many different elements to and look at pop music, you know, pop music isn't even what pop music used to be anymore, you know what I mean? Like it's a mix of like so much different stuff. Look at R&B, look at any listen. Yo, do you guys listen to country music these days? Is country music not turning into more hip hop than it used to be? Like
Post
I'm like,
is a country singer.
Yeah, he is. Exactly. Thank you. I've been telling people that, and I'm like, but that's why what he does works so well. Because at the end, listen, black people love country music, whether they want to admit it publicly or not. And it's because our grandparents love country music. You know, every black person's grandma or great grandma or great grandpa and grandpa loves country music. I guarantee you on that. And so as a kid, we were hearing that, but we just associate like one is country and it's like grandma and grandpa's music. You know what I mean? Right. But like subliminally, that is why Post Malone shit works so well, you know? Because listen, he's listening. Just if you were to take away all the instruments in his songs and just listen to his vocals, that's a country singer.
Country song.
Plain and simple. Even the style that he sings on the rap songs, he's singing in a country word. I listen to what is it? Virginia Tech Line, something line. This is like a country group. Okay. Or not the Chainsmokers. I'm trying to think of what this one particular country group is, and they're like popular, like in top 40 radio. They chart on Billboard Top 100. It's like they got one girl in the group, and then they got this one dude that's got like, he's always dressed like a hip hop cowboy. Like he's like dressed like baggy jeans, like a hip hop guy, got his chain on, but then he always wears this long overcoat and like a country hat. But like I'm trying to think, it'll come to me what the name of the group is. But I saw them perform on like you know, one of the late night shows. Or no, it was actually like an award show, like maybe the Grammys or something. And I'm like, yo, this, first of all, he's rapping. He's not even doing country. He's just rapping with a country drawl. You know what I mean? And the beat, the drums and everything on the song was so hip hop. I was like, that's hip hop beats just with a country guitar player. And him and the country female singer, she's, you know, sounded like, you know, Faith Hill or any of them female country singers. So she's just doing her country singing thing while Buddy is just rapping in the country drawl, you know? And I'm like, that's country music these days? I'm like, that ain't nothing but hip hop with some country guitars over it. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? Like that, and that's funny to me because especially country music, which comes from the South, American South, where we know is racist as fuck, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I bet you they don't even think about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I bet you they don't even think about the fact, like, or all those country fans, because they're young, they're of a young generation, so they're aware, because I'm like, they definitely listen to hip hop when they're not making their own music, you know what I mean? But I'm like, all the country people that listen to their music, I'm like, I wonder if they even think about that, because if you were to play a hip hop song, even play Post Malone right after that song, they'd be like, turn this garbage off. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, but you just listened to a country song, a hip hop song 2 minutes ago, you know? But my point is like, music these days in particular, it's such a mishmash of everything, you know, that it's like, there shouldn't be any other option but for Halifax to like wash away all this old stuff, you know, and get with the program.
Let's do it.
So I don't want to cut you off, but let's segue to two ladies that are mishmashing.
Yes,
things.
and supporting art as well as another young woman that's using funds to support art. So you guys got to connect with Shevy in the back, because I know she's not going to come up here.
Yeah.
But with an organization called Rising Youth.
Yo, come on.
Yeah.
Pop up.
We're going to have Emma and Kate come up here and tell us a little bit about what they're doing with art and how they're trying to bridge that gap between around diversity. I'll let you guys tell your project. You don't need me.
Yeah. I mean, okay, you can
Here,
do the
I'm gonna
pitch.
move. You guys
Oh, okay, cool.
I'll grab this and we'll get over.
Okay,
Right,
great.
I will exit. Stage is big enough, guys. Big
We
stage.
have bigger stage.
Okay, can people hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good. All right. Hi. Sorry, I was just like eating
You're just
everything
eating so
back
much.
there. Yeah.
Introduce yourselves.
Okay, cool. My name's Kate McDonald.
I'm Emma Paulson, and we're the Magic Project, alongside many other roles in the city. But the Magic Project is a non-for-profit that we started at the end of 2016 that basically is an arts and activism marriage. So we like host photo shoots and facilitate difficult conversations surrounding the experiences of like marginalized communities.
Yeah. So, should I do the pitch, the full pitch? The Magic Project is a non-profit organization that aims to bring the voices and experiences of marginalized communities to the forefront of social media and community discussion through art and photography. So that's what we do.
Yeah.
So our first photo shoot was Black Girls Are Magic, because that hashtag was going around. Okay, so wait, Donald Trump got elected.
Yeah.
Everybody was sad.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
Really sad. And so we decided to do something about it. And the first photo shoot that we had was Black Girls Are Magic, and that got 20,000 views in 6 hours.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we just kind of rolled with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do we do? We are also facilitators, youth facilitators at iMove, which is just up the block in Uniacke Square. So we get to work with a bunch of kids all the time and do art programming and music programming and help them learn and develop those skills while also using an activist approach. So we get to talk about real issues and help them express themselves through their art.
Yeah, which kind of like segues us into Rising Youth.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone else has ever tried to apply for a grant in Nova Scotia. Yeah, right? It's a nightmare.
It's very hard.
It's a nightmare. It's a true nightmare. Very, very long process, very arduous, very bureaucratic, very capitalist, very colonialist. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And even though there are these like diversity and like youth initiatives, for some reason, all of the people that we know that are diverse and also young people can't get any money. So something's not adding up. So yeah, we got sent, actually somebody very random sent me the link for Rising Youth and was like, I know you work with kids and I feel like this could be something good. And we brought it to our youth and they were like, we want to feed the homeless.
Yeah, they had been talking about that for like a year.
Months,
and we had been trying to find the right amount of funding to be able to do that. And then this grant kind of just fell into our laps. And then we were looking at the application and it was so much easier compared to all of the other grants that we had tried before. The process was super easy. We filled it out, sent it in, and then within a month we had the money and we were like making the project happen.
Yeah. And so that money helped us cook for 8 hours and bottle chili with kids from the age of 9 to 18. So that was
It was a long day.
It was a long day.
It was a long day.
And then we went down to Spring Garden Road and we actually handed out this food with the youth. And there was a little girl in London that just was so good at it.
She's just a star.
She was the best at it.
Yeah.
And then when we were done, the leftover bottles that we had, we took down to the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
And they used that food to feed people who were hungry.
Yeah, so also with the grant, there's 3 different portions, which if you go and talk to Chevy, you will get more information about. But there's the smallest grant is $250, and then the middle one is $750, and then the biggest one is $1,000. So you need different numbers of people for each of those.
1,500 is actually the largest. Is
it?
Actually the largest amount.
Sorry,
of
Chevy.
It is.
Sorry,
Yeah, Chevy just told me now. Yeah, but yeah, really easy to apply and like tailored to, I think, people who have really naturally creative minds, not having to read a whole bunch of bullshit that just sucks your soul out of your body.
It also leaves your possibilities like so open.
Yeah.
Like you can, I was talking with Chevy like a couple weeks ago, and the possibilities for the things that you can do with that money are like, it's so vast, so vast. Yeah, and it's also really cool to get to see youth have their first experiences with volunteering, and that's such a learning curve for some of them, and that's a really interesting like point to be at with a kid. Like one of the kids, side note, one of the kids hid one of the jars in her sweater. So we had gone into Salvation Army, and she like took it from the man that was there taking it, and she was like, and then left with it, and then she's outside like, look what I got, and we're like, no, you can't. You have to go back in there.
She had to go give it back.
She give it back.
Happy, but
but
there's a bigger lesson at hand. Yeah. So we're like around. We do lots of stuff. If people want to collaborate creatively, or through an activist lens, or through getting involved with the community, or through using. So in my own voice arts association, there's also a studio upstairs, Centerline, that Mr. Lindell Smith had a very heavy hand in.
It's now run by
that's
Jordan
like
Metro.
a community studio.
Yeah.
Where people can come and record and spend time, and it's good.
I think there are still free nights there also, so you don't have to pay for the studio time, and you can just go and record.
Yeah.
And Jordan Metro will help you produce it.
And Chevy Purse has a question.
Can we start the questions?
Yeah, deal.
Yeah.
How do they get in contact with you? Where do they find you? Social media, location? How does that happen?
We're on Facebook as The Magic Project, and then we also have an Instagram. That's The Magic Project _. And then our email is... I made this email, and obviously I'm a child that grew up in like the early 2000s, and I put my like birth year at the end of the email, so it's Magic Project 91. And Emma was like, "What did you do?" And I was like, "I don't know. It was like an instinct. I thought it would be fine." And she was like, "That was so unprofessional." I was like, "Whatever. At least it's on 69." You know?
Yes, indeed.
You said parental advisor or whatever. There's a sticker on this that lets me say whatever I need to say.
Great. Okay. Cool. And in the city, or where's it at?
Well, we actually
Uniac and Gottingen is I move, and we don't have like an office space.
No, we're
so
everywhere.
we work out of there a lot.
Deal. Cool. Well, now everybody knows.
Yeah, mobile office.
Sweet. Dope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have a question from the audience.
Yes.
How do all of you say that, utilize what Cazhhmere talked about, but for you guys, how do we make
Did we all come together?
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking back there. I don't know if this is part of the answer to your question. I hope it is. We were talking about OVO and XO and not having something similar here. There is something that is kind of started here. It's called Vimana, and that is something that could be kind of similar in a sense that it's a collective of diverse artists that have kind of birthed out of the North End. So
And I think we like low key, like high key have like, there's a crew of us that all kind of like support each other. We don't have a name though. We don't have like a squad name, but
kind of Vimana.
It's kind of Vimana. It's basically Vimana.
Yeah.
So, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do we want to get do we have some more questions? Do we have any questions from our seated folk? Don't be shy. If you don't have questions to ask now, we will be ending the show, and you can mingle and network and ask your questions without being put on the spot.
Can I ask a question to Cazhhmere?
Of course you can ask a question.
Cool. So I think that in every like creative person's life, they probably have like a very low point where you're like, oh, I don't know that I'm actually going to make it out of this one. This one actually feels like it's keeping me down for good. What would your lowest point have been, and how did you get out of it? I don't know if that's really intense, but
I almost died, killed myself in a car accident, trying to get from one city to the next to make it to a video shoot. Whoa. Flipped my car 4 times. Whoa. Wow. Somehow I managed to get out of the car without a scratch on me. Wow. I still showed up to my video shoot with mud on my hair and on my clothes. And then while we're at the shoot, it rained on my set because in one of our sets, we're shooting in a building that has a bunch of standing sets. If you guys know what standing sets are, it's like the shit's already built. You get what I'm saying? You know, like in movie and film studios where, like, on your TV shows, like the house that your favorite family lives in is just half a house. You know what I mean? Like, so that's a standing set. It was built for that TV show. But often on like Hollywood lots or there's buildings and places like that in Toronto where if I want to shoot in a bar, you know, I can go shoot on a standing set as opposed to going to an actual bar. So anyways, we were in a building where there's a bunch of sets. It's a creepy ass building. It scares me because it's just a big, dark warehouse from the outside. And then on the inside, it's got all these, like, they shot all the Saw movies there. Right? So you understand what I'm saying? It's creepy. One floor, you're walking, and you're in like a grocery store, and you turn a corner, and you're in like fucking penitentiary. You know what I mean? But it's like dark, because no one's shooting on there. So all the lights are off, you know? And then you go upstairs, and the next thing you know, you're in this fucking insane asylum. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's creepy as hell, you know? But it's also cool. It's like, you know, being in like a madhouse. Like, it's kind of fun. Anyways, I was shooting there, and my art department had built the hospital ward into like a mad scientist lab, and one of the grips on set thought it was a bright idea to put one of our lights right next to a sprinkler. Those shits get hot really quick. So the sprinkler thought the building was on fire, and so it rained inside my shoot on the whole set, and I just assumed the whole shoot was done. You know what I mean? Yeah. By this point, because mind you, earlier that day I should have died, but didn't. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. My brain hadn't processed it yet. And I was convinced that I should quit. I was convinced that God, Buddha, the universe, whatever, whoever you believe in, I was convinced they were telling me it was time to give up the dream. You tried it, you had some fun, but now it's time to stop being a kid chasing the dream and be a real adult. But long story short, a lot of things transpired afterwards within myself. But eventually I realized that I should have died, but I didn't. I somehow still made it to my set. It rained inside, but somehow my crew managed to rebuild the set in another room, and it looked like nothing had ever happened. We continued with the shoot. I shot the video. Turned out to be a great video, probably one of the best I ever did in my career. So God, Buddha, the universe wasn't telling me that I have to quit. It was telling me that what I told you guys earlier, if I don't keep doing this, I will die. So, and that's where the director guy comes from. Wow. That's how I got out of it. You know, that's like, this is what I was meant to do, and that whole experience is what it was telling me. You know what I'm saying? I'm condensing the story a little bit. There's more to it than that, but you guys get the point. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how I got out of it, you know? I guess to translate that to your own experience and to any of your guys' own experiences is it would be that, like, again, no matter how hard shit gets in this industry, because it's not easy, making a living off of shit that you pulled out of your head. You know what I'm saying? That's probably one of the hardest things that anybody could ever do in their life. Even harder than being a surgeon. Because at least when there's a surgeon, there's a textbook to that shit. You know what I'm saying? There's no textbook to what we do. People think there is, and universities want to charge you a bunch of money to think that there's textbooks to teach you what it is that we do, but there isn't. You know what I'm saying? And that's just not easy, you know? But when you get to your lowest points, like myself, if you can't see yourself doing anything but this, or like myself, if you feel that if you stop doing this, your heart will stop beating and your lung will stop pumping air, then that's not telling you to quit. It's telling you to figure that shit out. Stop crying and get back to work. You know?
Yeah. Wow.
I appreciate the perspective a lot.
That's a great story.
That's my answer. I don't know.
Wow.
No, great.
Amazing.
I don't know if it helped, you know?
Yeah.
But I can only speak from real life experience, you know? All the art that I create comes from real life experience. All the scripts that I write come from real life experience, you know? So that's pretty much all I can give you is my real life experience. So I hope that helps somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you got to, basically, what I'm saying is you gotta have tough skin, you know? And if you have it, then you gotta grow it somehow, you know what I mean? Because that's what this industry is about, you know? Like, we're kind of fucked up people as creative individuals, huh? No, we are, because as creative people, we're naturally sensitive. Plain and simple. I don't care if you want to deny it or not. If you're a creative person, you're sensitive, you understand? But yet, we put ourselves in the most non-sensitive fucking world, you know what I mean? Like, we set ourselves up to be put out there, to be criticized, to be judged, to be, put magnifying glasses over us and just have people look at us and just analyze us and everything, right? Sounds pretty fucked up if you ask me, no? But that's the gift and the curse and the beauty and the ugliness of being a creative person, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, like I said, you gotta build tough skin no matter what, because if not, it'll eat you up, or it'll rip your skin off, and then you'll just be out here all exposed and bleeding and stuff. Yeah, that's not cute, you know?
No. No, it's not. That was amazing. Any other questions?
No, come on, somebody got a question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, have you ever gotten into in a situation where you didn't want to direct the content of a video because of moral reasons?
Because of moral reasons?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
It's funny, people always ask me that, and I wonder if they ask me that because I'm a female.
No,
not you in particular.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But people ask me that a lot because I'm a female and because I directed a lot of music videos, and in particular a lot of rap music videos. People always tend to ask me that as if I don't have free will, as if I didn't realize I was directing a rap music video where we were talking about bitches and hoes. You know what I mean? It's like I'm deaf or something, this is good. Not you in this, because I know why you're asking it, but when people ask it from that perspective, I'm like, it's such a stupid question. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, do you think I was forced? Like, you think somebody put a gun to my head and said, shoot that ass? You know what I mean? Like, but
this is great.
Oh yeah. I mean, aside from music videos, not yet.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say. I haven't been asked to do anything that conflicted with my morals yet, or at least not that I can think of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I chose not to work with an artist one time just because I thought he was a sexist bastard. You know what I mean? But that was just my personal opinion of him. I just don't like this guy. You know what I mean? Like I observe him and I'm just like, yeah, this guy's fucking sexist, and he was just giving me that vibe. Like, he was constantly questioning me, over the dumbest shit, you know what I mean? Like, and I just suddenly clued in as to why he was asking me all these questions, and I was like, actually, I just don't really want to work with this dude, and you're corny anyway, so,
Fair.
But, no, not yet. But I do know, I know where my line is drawn, though.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I definitely do know that there are certain things where if it was presented to me, I would probably say no. You know what I mean? But I haven't gotten a chance to shut somebody down yet. You know? So other than that one guy, you know what I mean? But even though you didn't ask, I'll say it anyway. No, I don't feel morally conflicted when I do rap videos, and I what people would say objectify women, because in music I'll objectify anybody. To be honest with you, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, real talk. Like, I'll objectify whoever. I'll objectify a man in a music video, and I have. You know, I objectify the male artists I work with all the time. Like, you know, you gotta take your shirt off. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I hope you look good under there. You know what I'm saying? If you're not, you know, like for real. If not, you better suck it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll objectify whatever, because at the end of the day, that's my job. You know, and it's like I said, you know, I made a joke of it a second ago, but in all seriousness, it's like I heard the song, I know what they were talking about, you know, I know what the artist is looking for. It's up to me whether I decide to do it or not. And if I do it, I don't feel bad doing it, because those girls get paid. You know what I mean? First and foremost, they get paid to do a job. Two, they're doing a job. You know what I mean? Like, even though they're being perpetrated as hoes in the music video, those girls are not hoes. That's what they do for a living. You know what I mean? Like, they're models. They're on that set today, and the next day, tomorrow, they're gonna be on somebody else's set. You know what I mean? Doing what they gotta do, because that's what they do, you know? And so it's like, they're aware of it. They got paid for it. They made that choice, and no one forces these girls to be in these videos and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I know. And to be honest, most girls that I've ever put in videos, they feel more comfortable being in my videos because I am a female. You know what I'm saying? So like, they shake their ass even more for me, you know, because they don't have some creepy male director, like, you know, being a sleazeball to them. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, if the people hire me as a director to do a job, and if a song is about, you know, cars and big booty hoes, best believe in the music video, you're gonna see cars and big booty hoes. It might just be a little bit more tasteful from my perspective, you know what I mean? Because I'm a female, I know the female body, you know, and I know how to make it look better than some sleazy dude would, you know? And but at the end of the day, you're still gonna see booty shaking, you know? But I never feel like guilty about any of that, but I feel that you know, I do just as many of those type of videos as I do videos that are about stuff too, you know? So it's like, it's whatever song gets sent my way, whatever it's about, that's what the video is going to be about. Some shape, form, or fashion. That's my job, you know?
Do you have a final sentiment that you'd like to end off with, a closing message or some feelings message. Or something you want to get off your chest before we shut it down?
Just one more question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Because Keith brought up the Mana thing and I Move. So we do kind of have a lot of really cool artist collectives that are happening in Halifax now.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about it is, you know, lots of people, and I think Common Good Solutions talks about this a lot with other kind of businesses, not the music industry yet. There's sort of this thing of like moving to Toronto or staying here. And for people that choose to stay here, but all these kind of little things are happening, but maybe we're not, it's like you have the resources of all the people that can do all the things, but not the connection piece. So I sort of wonder, when you talk about all of those collectives, it's like, how do we try to network back to Nova Scotia, especially like people like yourself who have been successful there, with some of our young musicians and artists that are coming here, like into those connections that we can't really reach in Nova Scotia, you know?
Why can't you reach them?
I mean, how do you, like, I mean, I don't do music myself, but there's so many people, and the Mana thing that Kate mentioned, I'm sort of a part of that group, and I'm kind of a business skills person. So what you were talking about really made sense to me, because what I'm always trying to help artists do is make the business part as small as possible so that it makes enough money for you to be creative and do the awesome shit that you're doing every day. But then in Nova Scotia, it feels like, how do you find, like, I feel like our removal feels removed from some of those brands, even the Munch Factor, or like
other people doing this stuff on that level, like it's hard to find mentors that are doing stuff on the level that you want to get to. They're not here anymore.
Then you gotta be, well, one, if you can't find the mentor like physically in your own city, you gotta be your own. Like the internet is a beautiful place, you know what I mean? And the internet's not like how it was 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like now you can learn quality shit on the internet now. You know, I teach myself stuff on the internet all the time, especially when I'm editing and I'm like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. All right, I just go to YouTube. How do you blah 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 in Creative Cloud 2018, you know what I mean? And then boom, all these tutorials come up and I learn and I teach my own self what I don't know or can't find the people to teach me. But that's a side thought, but I'll say this, okay? And I think this answers your question. And it kind of ties into my closing thought, all right? But I still have a closing thought that I'll say. But to answer your question, one of the things that bothers me the most about Canada, we're spoiled, man. And we're spoiled brats in the sense where we're those spoiled brats that complain about not getting grants when we don't realize how lucky we are that grants are even a possibility in this country. And I use the analogy of the spoiled child who gets everything but still complains. You know what I mean? And I say that because, one, first and foremost, I'm truly grateful that we do live in a country where grants and stuff like that are a possibility, you know, and are available to us. But what bothers me is that I feel like in this country, it's like because they exist, we all feel some sort of sense of entitlement to those grants. Whereas you realize the rest of the world, that shit doesn't exist. But yet people in the rest of the world seem to not have a problem making it and breaking out. You get what I'm saying? They find a way somehow, you know? So why can't we? You know what I mean? Why is it that if we have struggled with the grant system and we don't get any results, we just get frustrated, you know? And are like, how can we get the grants? How can we get the grants? Fuck the grants. If you can't get them, fuck them. Do it some other shape, form, or fashion. You know what I mean? And it has nothing to do with the small province and the small town that you live in. Because the internet and things like social media and YouTube and all that have gotten rid of all that shit. At least when it comes to the entertainment industry, whether it's music, film, whatever, even photography, any of that shit. You know what I mean? Because the internet, social media, all those things have eliminated those like territorial borders. You get me? Where you can't, to be honest, it's not a valid excuse anymore to say you didn't make it because you come from some small hick town that no one's ever heard of. Look how many celebrities and artists and breakout stars we've seen just in the last 2 years alone that come from some small hick town that no one's ever heard of. But somehow they made it. And I'm pretty sure their countries don't have grant systems like ours, you know what I mean, for any form of art, you know what I'm saying? And they still somehow made it. And again, I say that, and when I say this, I'm not shitting on our grant system because I'm very grateful. My career was built on grants. Much Fat paid me and made me, you know what I'm saying? Like, the majority of my career in music videos, you know, I did over 200 music videos. Over 75% of them were funded through Much Fat. You know, so I'm very grateful for that. But that's not gonna stop me from doing what I do. If I hadn't got those grants, I would have figured out a way somehow, shape, form, or fashion. You know what I mean? Americans don't have no grant system, but yet, you know, look at the indie world. Most of the artists that we know, even from the States, the excuse we used to use from the States is all because they have the big money labels, but they don't anymore. No labels are spending money these days. You know what I mean? But look how many of these indie artists that are like, we were just talking about Post Malone. That's an indie artist. You know what I'm saying? He's got the support of the major labels behind him now because now the major labels have taken note of him and realized how much of a contribution he is and how he can make them money. You know what I'm saying? But he's been an indie artist and he's a white boy with a country slang doing rap music. You know what I mean? And if he can make it, why can't anybody make it doing anything? No, for real though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the guy walks around with a fucked up mullet. You know what I mean? But yet, yo, he's the coolest dude. Why? Because he don't care about his little fucked up mullet. He's still cool, you know? And it's like, I don't know, people like, you know, Justin Bieber's from what? Brantford, Stratford, Ontario?
Stratford.
Like Stratford, where is Stratford? You know what I mean? It's like, I know it exists, you know, I'm aware of it, but I don't really know where it is, you know, and Justin Bieber didn't get no grants, and he's Canadian, you know what I'm saying? You know, and people will be like, yeah, but he had Ellen help. Why did he get Ellen help? Because he was on the friggin' internet. You know what I'm saying? Just doing his thing. Singing little covers, being a cute little beaver in his bathroom, singing covers on the internet. And Ellen just happened to catch this kid on the internet. And then one thing led to another. Then Usher finds him, they connect, and then boom, he's the biggest star in the whole friggin' world. You know what I mean? But he didn't use any grants. You know, and he still made it. And Justin Bieber's from little ass Stratford, Ontario, that nobody knows where it is unless you've been there to go catch a Shakespeare play. You know what I mean? And so, you know, anybody from here using, I'm from small ass Halifax, Nova Scotia, or even anywhere. Say you're from Yarmouth, you know what I mean? I don't buy that as an excuse as to because you're from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, that's why you didn't make it big in whatever art form that you live in, and you didn't get any grants. Like, sorry, I'm not buying that. You know what I'm saying? The grants are like a bonus, but at the same time, we all like, the grants are the man, first of all. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, fuck the man. You know? Like, do it without them. You know what I mean?
I dig it. 1,000 megas.
I hope that answers your question. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah, talk to Chevy if you want grants. Rising Youth. Hashtag Take Me Global. Hashtag Rising Youth.
For the man, but I'm not the man.
No, for real. But usually, that's what I said. I'm not shitting on the grants because I'm very grateful that we have them. But it's like we can't let that be our end all be all. You know what I'm saying? But I realize in Canada we're so used to that's why I say we have like spoiled child brat syndrome. You know what I mean? So it's like we got grants, but yet they're not giving it to us. Bill who? Like, nah, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, do that. You know, like.
But taking them out, they weren't getting grades and things, so they found an alternative.
Exactly.
And then you apply. That's all it takes is 10, 15 minutes to actually try it out. Right?
And we also do free. We still do free stuff. We do stuff for free still. Like,
you gotta look at you gotta look at, like, for example, you know, especially in Nova Scotia, everyone always looks at Toronto as like, you know, a big brother. You know what I mean? Like that's where everything's happening and stuff. And urban music in Toronto is like dominating stuff right now. And you guys were talking about urban music. The grant system has never fucked with us. Plain and simple. Toronto got nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? You know how many of these artists, like, put it this way, Drake got denied much fact when he first started. He was already on Degrassi, all that stuff, you know what I mean? Like, when he wanted to do his first music video, he got denied much fact. How you denying the Degrassi kid much fact? Why? Because he's doing rap music. You know what I'm saying? Like, the grant system's much fact, like, you know, they've supported stuff, but I'm just saying, like, one, not just in Nova Scotia is there like a lot, even though this is the most racist shit going on, but the country as a whole is still pretty racist. You know what I'm saying? Right. And aside from, like, much fact, who was giving, you know, grants to, like, you know, black urban artists, for the most part, they weren't getting, like, all those other grants and stuff that's out there. And even still, they would, like, the ratio of, like, with much fact, like, how many of the, you know, urban black artists they were giving grants to all the others was, like, not even close to being even. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it's like urban music, the grant system has never messed with them, even in Toronto. But yeah, like I said, look where they're at right now. You know what I mean? Urban music from Canada in particular runs shit right now. Right. Like, that's facts, you know? And they were doing it without grants because the grants, they've never been messing with the urban artists in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? So that's just like, I'm just like kind of furthering my point where it's like, if you don't get grants, so what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not buying that as an excuse, you know? Like, cry to me after you done tried all that other stuff too. You know what I mean? Because even, it's like we joke about on social media with memes and stuff, we joke about SoundCloud rappers, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But that joke comes from a real place. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it's true. All these little rappers with tattoos on their faces and everything are getting big and becoming millionaires because they're just putting their shit out and they're doing it on SoundCloud and they're doing their thing. And again, like I said, it's a huge ocean, a lot of fucking fish, but someone's gonna bite. You know what I mean? It may take some time, but eventually you'll probably get a bite, you know? And you may not get as many bites as you want, but you're getting bites. And that's why it all comes back to, why are you doing it? Are you doing it to make money? Because if you are, quit right now, you know?
Right. That was great. Yeah.
Ready for my final thought?
Yes, please.
Okay, my final thought. Halifax, I love you guys. I really, 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 really love the place that I come from. I think, honestly, it's the best city in the world. I think we have so much to offer. I really, truly believe that. I think some of the most talented people in the world come from this city and this province as a whole. And I just think that it's time that we fucking act like it. You get what I'm saying?
True.
We need to hold our heads up, stick our chests out, and know that we're the shit. You know what I mean? And put our stuff out and move forward knowing that we are the shit. And we are one of the greatest provinces in this whole country and one of the greatest pieces of land in this whole freaking world. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta walk with that and know that and put that stuff out there, because I like I said, I truly love my hometown and I believe in this town, and I really just want to see us progress and elevate and show the rest of the world what I already know. You know what I mean? So wake the fuck up and let's get to work.
Facts. Thank you. Where did the humans find you on the internet?
On the interweb, you can find me on social media. I'm more of an Instagrammer than a tweeter. But all of my socials are the same. Cazh Blanche, Cazh, C-A-Z-H, Blanche. We're Canadian, so if you guys don't know how to spell Blanche, shame on you. You know what I mean?
In my mind, I'm like, how do you spell
But just in case, B-L-A-N-C-H-E. Okay?
There you go.
Americans would say Blanche, you know? But yeah, Cazh Blanche, that's the everything. That's my Instagram, my Twitter, my Snapchat, and yeah, that's pretty much where you'll find me for the most part. My website is under construction and redevelopment, redesign, all that. But if you guys just hit up any of my socials, and you'll get all of that information anyway. The website and all that.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate you guys for being here with me.
Love it.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.